So imagine buying a multi-million-dollar Formula One race car.
Okay, a Formula One car.
Right. You park it in your garage, and then you only ever use it to, like, drive to the end of your driveway to check the mail.
That sounds like a terrible investment.
It really does. I mean, you have this absolute masterpiece of engineering at your disposal, and you're using it to do something a golf cart could handle easily.
Right.
Well, according to a manifesto we're diving into today, it's from a platform called AI365.blog. And that is essentially what over 60% of adults are doing with artificial intelligence right now.
60%. Wow.
Yeah, over 60%. The text argues that the era of the casual AI observer is just completely over.
So we're past the novelty phase.
Exactly. So for today's deep dive, we are bypassing all that multi-billion-dollar corporate noise. We aren't getting bogged down in, theoretical debates about neural network architectures or trying to predict the exact year we hit artificial general intelligence.
Which is a relief, honestly.
Totally. Instead, we are looking at a highly practical blueprint for turning AI into what the author calls uncontested digital real estate.
Uncontested digital real estate. I like that phrase.
Built entirely on raw utility. So, okay, let's unpack this. What exactly is the friction point that's keeping people stuck in the driveway with their race cars?
Well, the friction point, according to this manifesto anyway, is entirely about user architecture. We are looking at a really stark capability gap here.
A capability gap, meaning what exactly?
Meaning people have this world-changing, probabilistic reasoning engine right at their fingertips, but they are interacting with it like it's a glorified search bar.
Oh, like just typing in a basic question.
Exactly. They type in a question about a recipe or some basic trivia, and they expect the system to act like a traditional search engine, just retrieving a static web page.
Right, but that's not how it works.
Not at all. Large language models don't retrieve information. They generate it.
Generate, right.
So when you ask an open-ended question without any boundaries, you're basically forcing the model to guess your intent across billions of parameters.
Which is why the outputs so often feel like completely generic. I mean, you're asking a machine that's capable of complex logical synthesis to just fetch a fact.
Yeah. What's fascinating here is the sheer amount of cognitive leverage that users are just leaving on the table because of that misunderstanding.
Cognitive leverage.
Right. The manifesto asserts that people are missing out because no one has ever handed them the tactical steering wheel.
To go back to the car analogy.
Yes. They fundamentally just don't know the mechanics of how to drive the car.
They just know how to turn the radio on and listen to whatever station it defaults to.
Pretty much. And to fix that, it requires a pretty significant mindset shift. The text is actually very aggressive on this point.
How so?
It says we have to stop treating AI as a novelty or like a parlor trick and start treating it as infrastructure.
Infrastructure. Like roads or the power grid.
Exactly. Infrastructure implies load-bearing utility. You don't play with the foundation of a house, right? You build on it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The goal is to find these low-jargon, hard-earned workflows that solve acute friction points in your daily routine.
Well, if we're establishing AI as load-bearing infrastructure, the most logical place to lay that first foundation is wherever the cognitive load is the heaviest.
Oh, absolutely. Which, for most people,
is the modern workplace. For a huge portion of our audience, anyway.
Oh, definitely.
The manifesto points out that professionals waste just an agonizing amount of time just staring at blank screens, trying to figure out how to start a project.
Or painstakingly sorting through messy spreadsheet data manually. Hours and hours of it.
Yeah. And when people do try to offload those workplace tasks to an AI, the results usually backfire. We have all experienced this, right?
Oh, 100%.
You prompt the machine to, draft a high-stakes email to your boss, and it spits back this robotic marketing brochure that lacks any human nuance whatsoever.
Yeah, it sounds bizarrely cheerful. Right.
Overly formal and entirely synthetic, just totally fake.
Well, let's talk about the mechanics of why that happens, though, because the source makes a crucial distinction here. The failure isn't the machine.
Okay.
The failure is the input.
So it's our fault.
Pretty much. Mechanically speaking, when you give an LLM a vague prompt like, write an email to my boss asking for a deadline extension.
Which is what everyone does.
Right. You are leaving the context window wide open because these models function by predicting the next most likely token or piece of a word based on their training data.
Okay.
An unconstrained prompt forces the AI to default to the statistical average of all business communication it has ever ingested.
Oh, wow. And the statistical average of corporate writing is?
Frankly, it's generic, soulless fluff.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. But here's where it gets really interesting. I think the common instinct is to view the AI as a writer.
Yes, like a magical ghostwriter.
Exactly. A ghostwriter living in your laptop who is somehow supposed to telepathically intuit your personal tone.
Which is impossible.
Right. But the manifesto suggests treating it instead like a highly competent, endlessly patient executive assistant.
And that executive assistant analogy holds up perfectly when you look at how you actually program the model. I mean, you don't ask an assistant to invent a project from scratch without any context.
No, you'd never do that.
You give them raw materials and rigid constraints.
You feed them the messy, chaotic brain dump.
Exactly.
Like if you have to send an email delivering bad news to a client about a supply chain delay, you don't ask the AI to invent the narrative.
Right. You dump in the raw facts.
You just say, Client X needs to know the deadline is pushed back a week. The reason is a component shortage in Taiwan. I need to sound polite, but absolutely firm that we cannot absorb the cost.
And then the AI acts as an organizational filter.
Okay, an organizational filter.
Yes. By establishing those specific constraints, you are narrowing the mathematical probability of the output. You aren't asking the machine to create from thin air. You're asking it to synthesize and format.
So the filter does the heavy lifting of the structure.
Grammar, flow, professional framing, all of that, while you retain the factual nuance.
The source outlines some specific workflows for this too, like cleaning messy data.
Oh, the spreadsheet example.
Yeah. Instead of spending 3 hours manually reformatting columns in Excel, you construct a structured prompt block.
Right. You tell the model, take this raw CSV data, ignore columns B and C, standardize all the dates to ISO 8601 format, and output only valid JSON.
Or taking hours of rambling, disorganized meeting transcripts.
Oh, I love this one.
Right. And you apply a prompt that forces the AI to output exactly 3 bulleted action items, ignoring all the small talk.
True productivity in these systems doesn't come from open-ended exploration. It comes from applying rigorous constraint to chaotic inputs.
So if applying rigorous constraints can solve the cognitive drain of an office environment, it kind of begs the question of why we immediately abandon that structure the second we walk through our front doors.
Which is exactly where the manifesto pivots from professional infrastructure to domestic logistics, the home.
Yeah. The source defines managing a modern household as an optimization problem masquerading as domestic life.
I read that phrase and it just struck a chord.
Totally. Scheduling soccer practices, coordinating dentist appointments, managing a grocery budget. The text calls all of this a massive, invisible tax on mental bandwidth.
And traditional productivity tools fail to eliminate that tax because they are completely passive.
Passive? Like how?
Think about a family calendar app or a meal planning software. They require constant manual data entry.
Oh, yeah. Updating them is a chore in itself.
Right. You end up spending as much time managing the software as you do managing the house. The tool doesn't do the work. You do.
But the text argues AI can thrive here by acting as an active manager, provided you build it around constraints again. Essentially running your household like a lean enterprise.
A lean enterprise, yes.
I have to push back a little on this, though. Applying corporate efficiency models to a family sounds incredibly clinical. I mean, doesn't optimizing your home like a factory floor run the risk of robbing it of its warmth?
That's a really common fear.
And furthermore, if I'm outsourcing my family's fundamental schedule to an LLM, aren't I creating a massive single point of failure?
Right.
Like, if the system breaks or the model gets updated and forgets my parameters, do I even remember how to manage my own life at that point?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the reliance on a system doesn't necessarily degrade your capability. It shifts your focus.
Shifts your focus. Okay, explain that.
Let's look at the warmth argument first. The manifesto isn't suggesting you automate your relationships or, have an AI write bedtime stories for your kids.
Okay, good. That would be weird.
It advocates outsourcing the logistical heavy lifting. Think about it. When you are mentally running through a grocery list while your child is trying to tell you about their day, you are physically present, but cognitively absent.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You're just nodding along but thinking about milk.
Exactly. By eliminating that invisible tax, you're actually clearing the bandwidth required to be fully engaged and human with your family.
So the argument is that I'm not automating the parenting. I'm automating the schedule so I actually have the energy to parent.
Correct. And regarding the dependency issue, the workflows outlined aren't about blind trust. They are about dynamic systems.
Like the meal mapping example.
Yes, take the meal mapping. You aren't asking the AI an open-ended, what should we eat this week?
Because that leads to hallucinated recipes with ingredients you don't even own.
Right. Instead, you build a targeted framework. You input your current fridge inventory, your specific budget for the week, and any dietary restrictions.
And you force the AI to mathematically map out a grocery list that minimizes food waste based only on those exact parameters.
The same logic applies to family calendar triage. You take all the disparate data sources,
School emails about half-days, sports schedules, medical appointments.
you feed them into a constrained prompt that synthesizes a cohesive timeline and proactively flags double bookings.
So the AI isn't making choices for your family.
No, it is processing the data so you can make informed choices faster.
The source also highlights adaptive learning prompts for children, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, the tutoring aspect.
Yeah, instead of a parent needing to relearn advanced algebra just to help with homework, you program a prompt that acts as a tutor. It instructs the AI to guide the child through the logic steps without ever just handing them the final answer.
Which perfectly transitions us into the third area the manifesto targets: personal hobbies and growth.
Right. Because if you have used an organizational filter at work to reclaim 2 hours of your day,
And optimize your home logistics to reclaim another hour of cognitive bandwidth.
the next logical question is, what do you do with that reclaimed capital?
Exactly. And the author argues you invest it in acquiring new skills, but they claim the traditional method of skill acquisition is fundamentally broken.
Broken, how?
Well, it is entirely static. If you want to learn a language or understand music theory, the default human behavior is to buy a generic course or watch a linear video tutorial.
Right, so what does this all mean? If I can use an analogy here, traditional learning is like sitting in the back of a crowded 500-person lecture hall.
That's a great way to put it.
The professor is going to deliver the exact same material at the exact same pace,
Yeah.
regardless of whether you actually understand the foundational concepts. The video can't read the room.
But this third pillar of AI utility transforms the technology into an active cognitive partner.
Active cognitive partner.
Mechanically, when you program a specific persona into the system instructions of an AI, you aren't just changing its tone, you are altering its objective function.
You can build a hyper-personalized mentor that creates a continuous feedback loop.
Yes. It's the equivalent of having a world-class private tutor sitting directly across the table from you.
Right. And if you squint your eyes in confusion, the tutor instantly pivots and explains the concept using a totally different framework.
The manifesto uses a very specific phrase here. You force the model to diagnose your weaknesses.
Diagnose your weaknesses. That's powerful.
The real power of an AI mentor isn't just information retrieval. It's the ability to actively test you. If you are learning photography composition, for example.
You don't just ask for a summary of the rule of thirds.
No. You program the AI to assess your current understanding, identify exactly where your knowledge breaks down, and then dynamically generate a custom 5-minute micro-challenge every single morning.
Designed specifically to push you past that exact sticking point.
Exactly.
And because you control the temperature and the parameters of the model, you can build like an interactive language immersion partner.
Oh, the language learning applications are incredible.
Instead of just memorizing flashcards on an app, you are engaging in conversational nuance where the AI pushes back.
It corrects your syntax in real time.
Right, and it forces you to argue a position in Spanish or Mandarin.
Or constructing highly specific fitness and endurance blueprints. You feed the model your daily recovery metrics, your sleep data, your heart rate variability.
And it iterates your training load for that specific day based on your actual physiological readiness.
It removes the friction of curriculum design entirely. You no longer have to figure out the path to mastery. The AI maps the terrain, and your only job is to walk it.
A personalized tutor, a flawless executive assistant, and a household logistics manager. I mean, from a high-level view, it sounds incredibly compelling.
It really does.
But we need to ground this. How does the author actually propose delivering this to the user without falling back into theoretical hype? Because there are thousands of blogs promising that AI will change your life, but they usually just deliver generic lists of prompts that don't actually work.
The manifesto anticipates that exact skepticism, actually, which is why it introduces what it calls the operational standard.
The operational standard.
Okay. The author commits to avoiding vague summaries or empty listicles entirely. Every piece of content they produce has to follow a strict 4-part architecture.
Problem, friction point, copy-paste solution, and verifiable result.
Yes.
As someone who loves diving into new concepts but absolutely despises reading dense technical manuals just to get a tool to work, this architecture is a massive relief.
It's very user-friendly.
It's the ultimate anti-jargon approach. Just give me the raw copy and paste utility so I can run the system and see the value immediately.
This raises an important question, though, about the evolving relationship between humans and machines. Notice the mechanics of that fourth step.
Verifiable result.
Yes, they don't just hand you the prompt block. They provide visual proof of the expected performance. And crucially, they provide precise instructions on how to iterate the output when the machine inevitably misses the mark.
Because no prompt is bulletproof.
Right?
The model will eventually hallucinate or lose the thread of the constraints.
Precisely. And by teaching the user how to iterate, how to tweak the parameters, adjust the context window, and refine the input, the source is executing its core mission.
He is teaching the user how to physically grab that tactical steering wheel.
Exactly. You are no longer passively throwing your hands up and accepting a bad output as a failure of the technology. You learn the mechanics of control. You learn how to drive.
So bringing this all together, the mission of this deep dive was to explore how we cross that capability gap. The infrastructure is available right now, today.
It's just waiting to be used.
We've looked at the mechanics of utilizing AI as a rigorous organizational filter for chaotic professional workflows.
We've explored the logic of deploying it to manage the invisible tax of domestic life, setting mathematical constraints to map out meals or triage family calendars.
And we've broken down how programming custom personas turns a static screen into an active cognitive partner, diagnosing your weaknesses and guiding you through tailored microlessons.
It fundamentally comes down to reclaiming your cognitive capital across every domain of your life.
It's taking that Formula One car out of the garage, learning how the steering wheel actually works, and finally pushing the engine to see what it could do on the open track.
And as we look down that open track, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
We have established that setting the right constraints allows this technology to act as a flawless filter, manage the crushing logistics of a household, and serve as an infinitely patient mentor.
Right.
But if we successfully outsource all of this daily mundane friction, what happens to the plasticity of our own brains?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Do we slowly lose our cognitive edge when we stop wrestling with the daily chaos of life? Or by handing the logistical heavy lifting over to the machine, do we finally remove the noise and unlock a level of human, creative, and cognitive potential we haven't even begun to understand?
Wow.
What will you choose to build when your hands are finally on the wheel?